Hi there, this is Melissa Casera. I'm a professional screenwriter and publicity strategist, and I help entrepreneurs create obsessed fan bases for their work, leading to more sales, more signups, and more fan mail. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite strategies to grow your business, and that is to get booked on top podcasts. I'm going to start over. Hi there, my name is Melissa Casera. I'm a publicity strategist and professional screenwriter, and I help entrepreneurs to create obsessed fan bases for their work, leading to more sales, more signups, and more fan mail. So today I want to talk about a strategy that I use to grow my business, which is to get booked on top podcasts. Now, you may already be a podcast fan, right? There's tons of amazing podcasts out there. And the good thing is that podcasts present an excellent opportunity for you to build the know, like, and trust factor with your audience. Here's why. If your audience is already obsessed with a certain podcast and they listen to it all the time on their commutes, while they're on the treadmill, whatever they're doing, right? They're already an engaged audience. Now, as a guest, if you listen to podcasts and you notice that when they interview people, they do it for about 30 minutes, sometimes 45, sometimes even a full hour the interview goes on for. Well, that is an incredible length of time that you have a captive audience, right? That person is listening to you and your story and your advice and guidance for that entire period of time. There really aren't many other opportunities that you can have that captive audience. So I highly recommend trying to get yourself booked on top podcasts as a way to grow your business. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do when you're using this strategy in your business is to research. So you may already have a podcast or two or maybe more in mind that you would like to get booked on as a guest. Well, that is the first step. Because from there, you can look up that podcast in iTunes or whatever platform you use to listen and look at their other recommended suggestions. Oftentimes, they will have a whole list of them of which podcasts they recommend you listen to. Well, that is a gold mine for you in research where you can comb through, make sure, of course, that they have guests on, guests that are like you, that would be able to give advice, guidance, tell their story like you. And from there, you can start to build your list, your research list. Now, the next step that you want to take, and this is important not to skip, is that you want to think about what's in it for them versus what's in it for you. Now, we all know there's something in it for us, right? I just told you that a great way to grow your business is to get booked on top podcasts. But you don't ever want to lead with that when you are making a connection and building a relationship with a podcast host. You always want to think about what's in it for them. Now, what's in it for them is that they're looking to grow their audience, right? Just like us. So if you can do anything to help them do that before you pitch yourself as a guest, it's golden. So you want to make sure that you rate their podcast, review their podcast, share an episode if you feel so inclined, follow them on social media, right? So there are lots of ways that you can continue or start to build that relationship before you go ahead and pitch them as a guest. Now, the next thing you want to do is think about where do you slot in as a guest, right? So you may already have an idea or two floating around in your mind of what you might pitch, what you might want to talk about on that podcast. Now, one thing I would encourage you to do is listen to at least 2 or 3 episodes of the podcast before pitching. And if possible, listen to the episodes that seem as close as possible to what you might talk about. Now, I don't mean checking out what your competitors did on that podcast if they were a guest. I just mean looking up like-minded topics that were on that podcast and see if there's a way that you can continue or grow that conversation. So an example might be, let's say that you are a fitness expert, right? And you just listen to another fitness expert on this particular podcast that you love, and they talked about a particular area of exercise, right? Now, you totally loved the episode, you loved what they did, but you also know that you could lend to that conversation, not go against what they said, but you could add to it with whatever your area of expertise is, okay? So that's a great topic to pitch because the host is already interested in that topic and you're offering a new slant or a new angle of guidance for that audience. And you're also calling back to an old episode saying, I love that episode, it was amazing, and I'd love to continue that conversation with your audience by sharing tips on XYZ. Okay? It's a great way to show the host that you are invested in their podcast as well and that you're an actual listener and fan. And then finally, once you've done all of those steps, you want to send a compelling pitch. So the compelling pitch will have that topic that I just spoke about, something that spurns off of another episode, and it will include a couple of other little factors. Now, fortunately, you don't have to think too hard because I've included a podcast pitch template right underneath this video. So once you're done watching, you can go ahead under this video and you can download that podcast pitch template. It is there, it's totally free and for you. Now, before we wrap up, I want to talk about another free gift that I have for you, which is a guide that I've created all about batching. So batching is a productivity technique that I use in my business to get basically everything done. And one of the things I hear the most from entrepreneurs when they are embarking on this podcast pitching soiree, right, is that they don't have time. They're like, I don't have time to research, I don't have time to come up with topics. Well, if you start batching your time, then suddenly you will find these little pockets, these little gold mines, right? You'll be basically bending time to be able to get everything done. So I want to teach you that strategy, and I have a free guide in order to do so that you can also grab with that podcast pitch template right underneath this video. All right, so I wish you the best of luck in your podcast strategy. I hope that I get to listen to you on top podcasts someday soon. And with that said, thank you so much for watching.